Okay, so I've been spending a lot of time consciously trying to allow myself to take breaks here and there and to relax and to just not constantly be hustling, even though that's kind of what they say you're supposed to do if you want to be the best. And for many, many months now, I have been doing that fairly nonstop with very few breaks here and there, but it seems that in recent weeks, it's kind of starting to catch up with me. And it's kind of like if you don't take breaks eventually, your body's going to take it for you. And you're not really going to have much choice at that point. So oftentimes in my life, I've really gone way too hard at something and find that it burns me out. Although luckily I've been on kind of an exceptional rally this last few months where I didn't really burn out as quickly as I used to. But now it's beginning to catch up with me again, and I'm feeling that kind of doldrum, which is inevitable, I think. But it's all about this game of balance and figuring out how to balance work with personal life. And it's not a straightforward thing, not for me anyway. Especially when you're working for yourself for the first time, like there is this type of pressure where you have to constantly be moving and constantly be making results, especially when people depend on you in life. But I tell you, it takes work. It takes mental work, mental discipline and strength. I think it's important to remember that we are all living through a brand new paradigm where new tools are coming out all the time, and there's always an expectation to learn the new thing and stay on top of emerging trends. We weren't really built for that. We were built to adapt to situations, sure, but in nature, when it comes to survival and procurement of food, but not these new technological, man, listen to me, I am dating myself here. I used to be the guy that was enthusiastic about all the new stuff coming out. And to a degree I still am, but I'm also feeling a type of burnout that I didn't used to have when I was younger. A fatigue, if you will. AI fatigue, technology fatigue. Just always having to stay on top of the newest stuff. And you kind of compare it to other more traditional types of careers. And sure, doctors have to stay on top of the latest medicines and cures and things like that. And lawyers have to stay on top of the latest legal developments and policy changes and whatnot. But I feel like it moves at a much slower pace than technology. And please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not in those fields, so I guess I can't say for sure. But from an outsider's perspective, as somebody who knows doctors and lawyers in my life and sees what their careers are like, it seems to me that technology is uniquely volatile and in a state of flux, where if you want to be a technologist and you want to offer value to the world, you have to constantly stay on top of new releases, new ways of doing things, new standards. If you're a programmer, new languages and ways to maintain those languages, correct practices that are constantly being revised and updated. It's work, bro. It's work. If you don't love it, it's not for you. Lucky for me, I have loved it for quite a while. But as I'm saying here in this video, I am getting a little bit burned out. There's no mathematical formula for how much time you should give to recreation versus work. There's really not. There's individual subjective opinions about it, and everyone has a slightly different ratio, I think. But it's important not to dwell over it all of the time to the point where you can't enjoy relaxation anymore. And sadly, I say that to yourself as well as to me, because I've been guilty of that pretty often lately, where I just flat out don't let myself relax as much as I should be. Even when I am relaxing, I have too much anxiety over getting back to work and various other things in life, other obligations and client stuff and stuff that I'm genuinely passionate about, but also something that I need to learn to step away from once in a while. Yeah, it's just a different type of anxiety that comes when you work for yourself versus when you do have a stable 9 to 5 and maybe you have like a side hustle or something, but at least you always have the safety net of a paycheck, a stable paycheck to fall back on. And as of right now, I don't have that. Now, luckily, I'm fairly fortunate because I'm staying afloat here and there, figuring out ways to keep making money. But it's not consistent. It's kind of like a feast and famine situation, if you've ever heard the term when it comes to how our ancestors, how their diets were, where they would go long stretches without any food and all of a sudden they would just feast on a big meal. And lately, at least this year, it's kind of looked that way for me, where I will on occasion have like a big cash out, which is really helpful and helps sustain me until the next one, essentially. But it's very different from a life of a stable, steady paycheck where it's a lower amount, but divvied out every couple weeks. It's a different lifestyle fundamentally. And with that comes different considerations, like how often can I relax? Even after having a nice payday of some kind, like how much time thereafter should I allocate to just relaxing and enjoying what I've just earned versus like when do I get started on the next round? And I get really wrapped up in the minutia of that. I really do. Just the timing of it, and it perhaps is an extension or an expression of my OCD, because I do happen to obsess over a lot of different little things, and this is probably just one of those things. But it doesn't lend itself to relaxation and taking it easy in life. And I have arbitrary goals that I've set for myself, at which point I can finally kind of relax and take a breath. Treating this more like a therapy session than anything. And I don't know how useful any of this is to y'all, because I can only speak from experience. I can only talk about what I've been through in my life. I hope that it resonates. I really do. I hope whatever it is I'm saying here gives you something worthwhile, because it's worthwhile for me to talk about. It feels very good to talk about. I think it is important to have a clear direction in life, especially when it comes to your career, to really determine what do you want out of your career, what do you want to be doing. And you know what? All I want to do is just go play Mario Kart for the rest of the day. It's like I go through these seasons, man, these seasons of like intense innovation and just exploration, seeing what I can come up with. And it's a finite resource. It's the type of thing that runs out of fuel and I have to recharge. And I guess you could say right now I'm recharging. At least that's how I'd like to look at it, because my output is just not what it was. I'm still putting out cool videos here and there, and Instagram is elevating some of them in the feed. Like I said in earlier videos, it comes in waves, But it takes a lot out of you to have to keep innovating, to have to keep pushing out novel, interesting content. Ask any content creator, especially in this space, the AI Instagram rabbit hole. There is an expectation that every single day something new and interesting will emerge on people's feeds from pages like mine, because that's what they've gotten used to. But we are only human at the end of the day, me and the other influencers in the space, and we need to recharge and honestly figure out a way to stoke those creative flames once again. And there are ways to do it. There's ways to do it. Various different ways. Also, real quick, folks, I just wanted to take a minute to plug, if you will, my subscription service on Instagram. It's only about $10 a month. And what you're going to get from that is about 5 posts a week, everything from tutorials on how to make some of my more viral reels to various tips about how I prompt my videos and the kinds of tools that I'm using on a day-to-day basis. And it changes every week, like my top tools, why I think they're great, the pros and the cons. I cover quite a bit as far as how I do what I do. So if you have any interest in making videos just like mine, this would be the perfect way to access some of that information. So I invite you to check out my Instagram. I'll leave a link in the description down below. And I invite you to check it out, or at the very least, just follow my page for the latest updates and videos. But regardless, happy to have you here, and I'll see you next time, okay? Bye-bye.